Hi, day 3 of the tests. At the end of the tests yesterday, I said possibly the reason why arrowheads perform differently is not because they're of different type, but because they're just made in a non-standard way. So two arrowheads of the same type would perform completely differently. Today I thought I'd put that to the test. What I've done is I've knapped two tanged and barbed arrowheads. As we can see, they're the same arrowhead, but they're slightly different. One is longer and thinner, one of them is slightly shorter and fatter. The one on the right is slightly thinner than the one on the left, but other than that they're largely the same arrowhead. Will there be a great difference in their performance when there's so small changes compared to the difference in performance of the arrowheads yesterday that were so different? The second test here is, or the reason I've chosen barbed and tanged arrowheads, was because of the disappointing performance of the barbed and tanged over the last couple of days. So I just wanted to check whether it was just something about the barbed and tanged I made, or whether it's something about the arrowhead style. Will these penetrate a lot further? So this is what I'm going to test today. I made these last night. As you can see, they're unhafted, so now I'm going to go and half them, and in about hopefully an hour's time I'll come out and I'll do the ballistics test. So everything is set up for another round of testing. Sure. So the first shot I'm going to make is the barbed and tanged arrowhead that was a little bit longer of the two I showed you earlier. And that's the first one. Now I'm going to do the shorter of the two tanged and barbed. So, and that is quite interesting. Take the stem out and we'll see how they've gone in. Now, looking at that result seems to confirm yesterday's result. The longer and thinner of the two tanged and barbed has actually performed worse than yesterday's and gone in less. The one that looked much more like yesterday's has gone pretty much the same distance. So we're looking at a situation where style does actually matter, but also you will get variance within the style because of the quirks and the individualness of each arrowhead by the way it was manufactured. I'm going to do the tanged and barbed arrowhead that was slightly longer of the two I showed you. And next, the shorter of the two tanged and barbed. So, let's have a look. And what we can see is a very different result. This time the tanged and barbed has gone in quite a long way, almost as far as the oblique did, but the other tanged and barbed has gone in the shortest of any arrowhead I've shot. So that gives us quite a varied result, but it still gives us an average of around there. One exceptionally long shot, one exceptionally short shot, and the rest around there. So we're seeing a variance around the theme. It still means the barbed and tanged, I think, is the worst performer of the arrowheads, though you get a variety of effects over the 6 shots. Hello again. Day 4 of testing. What I'm going to do is use a bit of sword theory and apply it to arrowheads. So what we can see is we've got 2 types of arrowheads here, and these intuitively look like a great design for arrowheads. They start off thin and gradually get fatter, whereas this is almost a counter-intuitive design. And this is definitely counter-intuitive. I mean, fat at the point end and getting to thin. Now what I've got here is a chef's carving knife, and the chef's carving knife is basically like that. It's got a big fat edge at the top and it thins to a narrow point. You may imagine that's how they make swords as well. It's not how they make swords. There's a lot of well-written sword theory out there, and it explains why you don't make swords like that. People in history have never made swords like that. So if we look close at this sword, this is a katana, and it goes from the tip there and it gets fatter to that point, and then it just dies away and getting thinner again. So it's a bit similar to the edge of one of these type of arrowheads. And if we look at the cavalry sabre, there's a 1796 British light cavalry sabre. It starts thin, gets thick to this point, then it starts dying away. So it's very much like this kite-shaped arrowhead. And the reason they're like this is because, and a lot of good sword tests have been done to show this, is what happens is when you cut that into something, as it's gradually expanding, you're getting friction, more friction, more friction, and more friction. But with this, you get friction up to there, and then it just dies away. With the kite one, you get friction up to about that point of entry, but after that, there's no friction. And if we look at these chisel ones, you're just going to get friction when it goes straight in. And beyond that, because it's dying away, there's no more friction beyond the tip. This is actually a much more frictionless design than that. As I say, this is used in sword design, so maybe it's the reason why the leaf-shaped arrowheads seem to penetrate much better than other arrowheads, because largely they're in the same design as a sword shape-wise, or the most efficient cutting sword designs. So this is something I'm going to put to the test. I'm going to use an arrowhead like that and an arrowhead like that and see just how efficient designs they are compared to my other tests. So the first arrow I'm going to shoot is the kite arrow. And now for the second test, the second of the two leaf blades that's thickest in the centre. Okay, let's have a look from above, and what we can see is the leaves have gone pretty consistent with what they did in the other tests. This one is the pretty even leaf shape, and that's the kite one. So the kite has actually not quite gone as far as the leaf blade. In fact, it's probably only gone as far as the oblique arrowhead. But there still is a consistent performance around this area. There seems to be a pattern. I mean, if we look at the tanged and barbed, these are can be, as you see, this one almost as wide as it is long. These ones tend to perform worse because so much of it is giving friction as it goes in, whereas the thinner and longer tanged and barbs performed marginally better. If we look at the leaves, we get three basic designs. We get the width at the front, width in the middle, and a width at the back. These tend to be the most efficient design. You get more friction because it goes all the way down to the middle, but you get a narrower angle consistent with the narrower angle tanged and barbed. With these, friction lasts a lot less, but the wider angle creates more of it. And with this one, friction dies away almost instantly, but you get a lot of it when it initially goes in, while these are a law unto themselves. I think we can continue with the idea that these arrowheads were more designed for no-nonsense shooting, where these ones were designed more aesthetically. Modern knappers tend to gravitate towards doing the pretty stuff, and when you've got one expert napper in a village, you can see that they want to show their skills, show their flair, and show off. I think also these are being made by nappers who possibly don't care how well they go in. Their thing is to make a pretty arrowhead, whereas these were being made by possibly more by hunter-gatherers themselves, the people who were shooting them. So they were more concerned with how they performed, not how they looked. Finally, just a little afterthought, in case anyone's not aware, I've been using these, placing them on top of the gel and on this table as examples of the arrowheads I've been shooting, so no one's confused by them. But these aren't the arrowheads I've actually been shooting, they're display quality. So when I shot a kite arrowhead, I used this as an example, but that's the one that was actually shot. And that was my example of a leaf, but these were the two leaves that you actually saw going into the gel. Again, the petite tranchée that was actually fired, we can even see that's actually got damage. It's the only arrowhead that got damaged. There's the oblique that was actually shot, and these are the three tanged and barbed. So just in case anyone was confused. So finally, I mean, I haven't shot many arrowheads doing this test or tried that many possibilities, so I think we have to consider the results of this test provisional. Really, for it to be considered proof of anything, it would have to be repeated by other people and the same results achieved. It's quite possible that someone else could try repeating it and get completely different results. That would be interesting in itself. So thanks for watching, and I'll start trying to think up some more tests I can do on arrowheads.